This is a work of political and social commentary. The content of this video is not meant for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world this week. Biden is confusing the United States, COVID has provoked some really contentious activities, and America is starting to reopen after the COVID crisis. In short, plenty of material for some roasted opinions. There's still an election going on, despite COVID shoving everything else off of the front page. Come November, the United States may have a new president, or we may have 4 more years of Orange Man bad memes. Trump is running the same basic campaign that he ran successfully in 2016. Washington is corrupt, the country needs to be made great again, and only Trump can do this. In other words, he's running against himself. Now that's the opposite of conventional wisdom in this situation. A candidate who runs against themselves only succeeds if the election is a referendum on their stewardship. This election isn't a referendum on Trump's record so much as it's a referendum on Trump himself. I read the headlines all the time. He's stupid, he's unqualified, he's narcissistic, he's a fool, he's orange, annoying orange. If the election were a referendum on his stewardship, then maybe Trump would be in trouble. People tend to vote for the other guy when an incumbent seeks re-election during an economic downturn. The DNC knows that, which a more cynical person might claim is the reason for their endless delaying tactics when it comes to getting supplies to hospitals, aid to individuals and small businesses, and the country reopened for business. Personally, I'm not certain that the current Democratic leadership is smart enough to realize how bad it looks when they block legislation, nor that claiming that the GOP is blocking legislation after the Dems have blocked the same legislation until amended into a 1,000+ page long pork package is working with most Americans, nor that filming spots in front of a fully stocked ice cream freezer with a 5-figure price tag is a bad look when many Americans are facing food insecurity. Typically, when a candidate is in a weak position while seeking re-election, they run against their opponent's record. The tone of the campaign is more of a, but they are worse, rather than an, I'm the best. But Trump is running against Trump, and Biden is running against himself too. In Trump's case, that decision can be explained away by Trump actually believing that he's doing a good job. In Biden's case, though, I'm really starting to wonder if Joe is aware of his situation. Let's recap. COVID is preventing traditional campaigning. Biden should therefore be all over broadcast media, flooding the country with commercials pointing out every perceived mistake that Trump makes, talking to anyone and everyone who will put him on the air for 5 minutes. All that he has to do to pull that off is to look healthy and vigorous on camera, and to sound reasonable and energetic on a microphone. And Joe can pick up the stack of chips and cash them in for a new office shaped like an oval. Instead, Joe is making occasional televised appearances, sometimes in the company of his wife Jill and sometimes alone. Whether it's an artifact of the lighting, or bad makeup, or a real indicator of his health, Joe looks old, tired, and sick. His answers are rambling and sometimes completely incoherent. But the worst was when he did an interview that also featured Hillary Clinton. Now he might have been checking his notes there, but it looks like he fell asleep in mid-interview. Joe's lack of energy is transferring to his supporters. It's hard to get energized to vote for someone who looks like your great-grandfather after Thanksgiving dinner. Getting energized for someone who is accused of sexual misconduct is even more difficult, especially when his response looks like he's guilty. After being asked on MSNBC about the allegations against him, Joe could have opened up his Senate records at the University of Delaware as well as sending people to the National Archives. But he didn't, and now he looks like he has something to hide. He also stated in the same Morning Joe interview that no corroborating accounts existed from his staff. That's only true if his interns aren't his staff, because his former interns have partially corroborated Tara Reade's account of being reassigned after the alleged assault occurred. Now I know that it can be and has been said that Donald Trump is no better. He's faced over 20 allegations of sexual misconduct. To that, I have to point out that exactly 2 of these were made before his candidacy. One by his ex-wife Ivana during their divorce, which was recanted by her before the proceedings were over, and one by Jill Harth, whose lawsuit was withdrawn after a settlement was reached on a related lawsuit launched by her boyfriend at the time. Both of these women have subsequently associated with Donald Trump, a behavior which I find curious. To my knowledge, people who have been raped typically do not associate with their rapist voluntarily. Yet Ivana endorsed Donald and considers the two of them to be best of friends. Jill has since worked as a makeup artist at one of Trump's campaign rallies, characterizing their relationship as friendly. That doesn't address the remaining allegations, of course. Those allegations all came out after Trump announced his candidacy, especially after the infamous locker room talk tape. To my knowledge, none of those allegations have yet been substantiated. There are lawsuits pending, of course, but no criminal charges, despite at least two of those allegations being raised within the statute of limitations for filing sexual assault charges. I've made this statement before. Raising an allegation of sexual assault which happened too long ago to prosecute just in time for a presidential election is suspicious. Donald Trump has fought the lawsuits against him in roughly the same way each time. Deny the allegation, ridicule the claimant, and eventually the claim is dismissed when a settlement is reached on an unrelated matter. Biden is facing 8 allegations of his own, including Tara Reade, and in his case, none of the allegations are from women who continued their associations with him after the alleged events. He deserves the same scrutiny as Trump received, especially since there are numerous photographs of Biden acting in an overly friendly manner with women and children. The allegations of misconduct aside, Biden is still the guy who has extensive ties to shady deals in foreign countries. He's still the guy who seems more confused every day. He's still the guy whose passing acquaintance with statistics is laughable. Just this week, he added a 0 to the number of people who have died from COVID in the United States. I'm not sure if Biden is fit to serve. And his comment that he needs a young vice president because he doesn't expect to complete his term of office is ridiculously concerning. Now that it's May, 18 states have decided that enough is enough and are stepping forward with Phase 1 reopenings. Many of the other 32 seem to be extending their stay-at-home orders. That wouldn't be remarkable given that each state is experiencing the outbreak in different ways and has their own approach to containing it. What is remarkable is that exactly 2 of the 24 states led by Democratic governors have lifted a stay-at-home order, Montana and Colorado. Of the 26 states led by Republican governors, 8 never had a stay-at-home order in the first place, and 9 more have lifted their stay-at-home orders. Add in the 3 territories which never issued a stay-at-home order, and the score currently stands at 4 Democratic jurisdictions without a stay-at-home order in place to 18 Republican jurisdictions. If nothing changes, in a week that number will be 9 to 19. In 2 weeks, 16 to 22. 12 Democratic jurisdictions will be closed 3 weeks or longer without an order, as compared to 6 Republican jurisdictions. Now that bias might have something to do with the fact that Democratic states tend to have higher populations and more cities, but that doesn't explain why Hawaii and Maine will be closed until May 31st. Nor why Texas and Florida are reopening when California is still closed. I'm prepared to give New England a pass for further delays to their openings because of the high infection counts there and dense population. But folks, listen. New York, the most heavily infected state, is scheduled to reopen on May 15th. In New England, Rhode Island is scheduled to open May 8th. Vermont is scheduled to open May 15th. Massachusetts, May 18th. Connecticut, May 20th. New Hampshire and Maine, May 31st. Why, then, is Virginia closed until at least June 10th? Why are California, Kentucky, Maryland, New Jersey, Oregon, South Carolina, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands closed until further notice? Did their governors just not want to specify a time, or is there some extra existential threat there? In New Jersey, there may very well be such a threat. They have over 123,000 cases confirmed. Perhaps California does too, with 52,000 cases. But look, New York has over 312,000 cases and is still scheduled to reopen on May 15th. That's about 3 out of every 11 confirmed cases in the United States just in New York State, folks. Perhaps other states should consider reopening by the 15th as well. Now, I'm not the only one to notice this discrepancy. People all over the country are hurting and they want answers. The virus has killed over 66,000 Americans and infected over 1 million more, but over 30 million are now out of a job, and most of the country is still working from home if possible. The economy has contracted by nearly 5% in just 3 months. We needed to shut things down when we didn't know much about how infectious and how lethal COVID-19 is. Now we need to face the facts. We cannot simply keep the country closed for business until we have a vaccine or a cure. Every week that the country is still at home instead of reopened for business, more businesses will close forever, and more jobs will be gone for good. People are protesting because they know this. People are also protesting because some states are trying to prevent any activities other than purchasing groceries and other critical supplies, no matter how much social distancing is involved in those activities. Churches which convene services in cars by radio are being penalized. Businesses which attempt to reopen before the states permit them to reopen are losing their licenses, even if those businesses are considered essential in other states. Rhode Island Governor Raimondo has declared that all large gatherings will be forbidden during the entire summer and closed all tourist sites to out-of-state visitors. That's a ridiculously aggressive move considering that Rhode Island gets over 13% of their jobs directly from the $5.75 billion tourism industry in that state. Michigan Governor Whitmer has declared that nearly everything will remain closed in her state until May 28th. Despite protesters swarming the Capitol grounds, some of them openly armed. Protests are breaking out all over the country, and politicians should take note. These crowds are saying that they cannot bear the cost of onerous restrictions much longer, and the longer that states continue to extend restrictions without adequate justification, the closer those states come to a complete collapse of the system. People need hope. They need to know that common sense steps are being taken to get America safely back to work and back in business. They need to know that they can eat, have a place to live, and take care of themselves and their families. Without that hope, state governments risk losing the mandate of the people. And no one, and I mean no one, wants that. Finally, the Washinton Post published an article about the media having a political bias. I've been waiting for just such an article for a long time from them, and I'm afraid that I wasn't surprised to see that someone at the WAPO finally noticed and reported on it. What did surprise me a bit is the WAPO claiming that the media is giving Republicans a pass. Really, WAPO? Upon what reporting are you basing that allegation? The rampant support for Trump in the media? Yeah, good luck with making that argument.